Good morning, friends. Myself, Dr. Nidhi Darbari, on My Education Treasure. In my previous video on narration, I had discussed about the effective and defective traits of narration. Today, in my present video, I am going to discuss about the meaning, characteristics, limitations, and precautions of narration as a teaching device. It is very essential technique of teaching. This technique is used at various stages of teaching because a teacher has to state something during his presentation. The purpose of narration is to highlight the main aspects of a content. Narration is such a teaching device which makes the subject matter easy and interesting for the students to learn the content. On many occasions, teachers feel it worthwhile to narrate the content, knowledge, that is, to tell the stories, give accounts of events, recount some past incidents, and the like to the students. Educationally, listening to narratives is a practical means of learning interesting things in interesting ways. The use of narration as a device in reading and language, in history, social studies, in biography, and in natural sciences is almost universal. It is used as a means of arousing interest and enthusiasm in large numbers of school subjects in which intrinsic interest is often lacking. Meaning of narration technique. Narration is also termed as statement, which means an interesting oral presentation of some reference, object, or an instant in such a way that the mental picture is formed in his mind. That is, he understands clearly. Hence, narration is a form of a story. Remember that narration is an art. In order to be efficient in this art, the teacher presents, with the help of his imaginative power, the description of an object or some incidents with such an enthusiasm and in an effective manner that all the students of the class gain the full knowledge very conveniently. In other words, through narration, the mental picture of objects and incidents are drawn in the minds of the students so lively that they can understand the contents very easily. However, narration technique is used in science subjects successfully, but it is used especially in subjects like history, geography, civics, and economics. Narration technique means statement of a teacher to highlight the major components of teaching content. It is used at the following stages of teaching. Firstly, at the introductory stage, and secondly, in the presentation of content or at the middle of teaching. At the introductory stage, in introducing a new topic, the teacher uses questions, visual aids, examples for imitating the new topics through students' responses. At the end, teacher states the topic in proper words and terms. At the stage of presentation, at developing stage of teaching, at several places, teacher has to morale to highlight the main aspects of the content. This technique is used in different teaching subjects in different ways. In history teaching, this technique is used to state the past events and fact. The science teacher takes use of this apparatus and experience. This technique plays a significant role in social subject teaching. Characteristics of narration technique. The following are the main characteristics of narration technique. Narration provides so much knowledge to the students that they need not to read various books. Pupils enjoy listening narration more than reading the book. It is the reason that the narration leaves permanent effect upon the student's mind. A complete review can occur by throwing light on all the aspects of the subject through narration. Students gain knowledge in lesser time through narration as compared to books. Narration can guide the students properly. This makes them interested in solving various problems of life. It has permanent effect on the minds of the students. It makes teaching interesting and economical. It highlights the main aspect of the teaching content. It helps in summarizing them of the teaching content. It makes learners attentive and develops the capacity of understanding. It creates anxiety and curiosity among the students. It helps in developing reasoning ability related to the content. Limitations of narration technique. Narration technique has some limitations in teaching, which are as follows. It makes teacher active in classroom teaching rather than students. While using narration technique, students remain as passive listeners and the teacher as active. Every teacher cannot present narration in a logical and psychological sequence. It is a problem to use appropriate and correct language in narration. It is difficult to decide the relevance and appropriateness of the statement. The style of narration plays important role which makes presentation effective. Too much use of narration technique makes the lesson bore. Interrupting the narration, pupils don't dare to ask any question. Their difficulties are retained as such and they acquire very small portion of the lesson. In order to present the narration, various characteristics like correctness, appropriateness of the language, interesting subject matter, and understandability, etc., are essentially required. When a teacher does not pay attention towards above characteristics, then the narration loses its importance. If you found the video to be informative and interesting, I request you all to please give a like to the video to motivate me, share it with others and subscribe it so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get a notification. Precautions while using narration as a technique. Keeping in mind the above mentioned limitations, the teacher should specially observe the following precautions while using the narration technique in classroom teaching. Narration should neither be too long nor too short. A lengthy narration puts the pupils in doubts, and too short narration cannot benefit them more. Hence, the narration should be of reasonably short period. During narration, the teacher should not talk irrelevant. It should be relevant to the presentation. There should be modulation in voice of teacher's narration. The language of narration should be so simple, easy, clear and easily understandable that the student may pick up easily. The narration should be interesting and appropriate and make use of teaching aids. The style of narration should be comprehensible and appropriate. The teacher should have knowledge of those objects and places which are to be narrated. He will be a failure in drawing the correct picture in the minds of the students if a teacher lacks this knowledge, and the interesting nature of the lesson will get eliminated. The narration should be in accordance with the need. Narration should occur with patience and self-confidence. The narration should awaken the imaginative power of the pupils through narration. In order to make the narration interesting and effective, the teacher should also use his imagination. While narrating, the teacher should speak clearly with fluctuations. The provision of narration should be according to pre-planning. This will leave a permanent effect on the students. A continuous narration makes the students passive. This encourages boredom. Therefore, the teacher should present in a sequence the subject matter by dividing it in units. Not only this, after each unit, questions should be asked from the students. This keeps the class alive and the teacher gets reinforcement regarding the understanding of the contents. The speed of narration should be according to the class level. Too fast or too slow narration cause partial learning. For a successful narration, the teacher should draw an actual picture in the minds of the students so that the emotion gets aroused after witnessing an actual incident. For this, the teacher should narrate the real incident with proper gestures and proper acting. This makes the narration alive. Narration should reach its climax gradually along with a curiosity to know further details. Thank you very much for patiently watching the video and don't forget to subscribe.